Hey, we ready? Good morning. I'm Fran Bradley of Atlantic Broadband and chairman of BCAP, and I'm very pleased to welcome you to the first of a series of virtual panel discussions BCAP will be hosting for our members. This webinar, a state of the industry update from some of the most experienced, knowledgeable industry pros in the Commonwealth. We look forward to their views on some timely topics. Our industry is at an inflection point with the influx of broadband infrastructure dollars, the impact of the pandemic on our businesses, and the potential for changing regulations. These leaders are preparing their businesses to meet the challenges of today and tomorrow. So let's get right to it. This morning's panel includes Joe Laura, Director of Government and Public Affairs at Blue Ridge Communications, Wendy Hartman, General Manager of Adams Cable Service, Joe Taylor, BCAP's immediate past chairman and Vice President and General Manager at Armstrong, and Tim Trentley, Division Manager at Service Electric Cablevision. Serving as our moderator and about to reach his 6-month anniversary as BCAP's president is Todd Eaches, a 24-year cable industry veteran who has a very familiar face in the halls of the Pennsylvania Capitol. Todd has hit the ground running since taking the reins at BCAP, in just a matter of a few months, advocating for our industry before the General Assembly and participating in dozens of face-to-face meetings with policymakers on just the issues I mentioned. Again, thank you for joining us this morning. And Todd, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thanks, Fran. Appreciate that very much. And thank you for the welcome to everybody. I'd like to thank all of the members for joining. We hope that this is an inaugural kickoff of what will be a regular series to help inform and educate our members across the Commonwealth about what's going on with our colleagues in the industry and certainly here at your association, because this is truly your association. And the staff here prides themselves on serving you. If you got on early, you may have seen that we had a little technical difficulty. This is, as I said, our inaugural kickoff webinar, and I can assure you that we will smooth these technical issues out as time goes forth. We're all learning, even though we've learned a lot in the pandemic and virtual world here most recently. I'd really like to start by thanking Wendy, Joe Taylor, Joe Laura, and Tim for joining us today. They are, as Fran said, operational experts in our industry all across the Commonwealth, bring a wealth of knowledge. And we thought it would be just kind of a great inaugural webinar to kick off with a discussion with these folks about where we are. We've been through a pandemic now. And I am proud to say, on behalf of all of us and all of our members, our networks have been resilient. We've responded. Every company, every member has responded amazingly to the needs of the pandemics and serving the needs of our customers. Our networks have done so. But this is a great inflection point as we look forward to entering 2022 with a changed landscape. So let me start by asking you all this, and I'll go to Joe Taylor first. What operational lessons have you guys taken away from the pandemic experience thus far?
Well, challenges of the pandemic, I think one of my takeaways, I think it's something I always knew, but I guess it just become more evident that just what a great team we have here at our company in terms of being able to not only kind of think our way through the challenges. I don't know many people that were around in 1918 when they had the last big one. So they were unavailable to rely on. And so it seemed very much with the direction we were being given, whether that was from our, federal, state, or local levels, you very much found the need to kind of find your way. And I think in situations like that, as leaders, we're always challenged with the ability to be consistent. And there were certainly times early in the pandemic where it was hard to be consistent because the news changed every day. And I just think the ability of our team to continue to come together and to work together through that is probably the single biggest lesson I learned, that we do have a great group of people, and we are able to manage through these even difficult and uncertain times. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Just these teams and our workforce has just been amazing. Wendy, how about you? Anything?
Well, I agree with Joe. The team, the word family. Adams Cable was a family of 70 employees. We did work together. Rules changed every day. We would put out a new memo about what rule to follow for today. And by the end of the day, it was off the wall and a new one was in its place. But we were flexible. Our staff was flexible. I found, again, they all were good team members. The installers had a bit of a time doing installs remotely from out on the porch or out in their trucks. That was a source of frustration for them. But we made it work. We made it work. So I'd say we were successful.
Absolutely, no doubt. Joe, Laura, how about you?
Yeah, totally agree with Wendy and Joe. And what we've learned is that physical separation of our leadership team didn't really impact our ability to make great decisions to move the business forward. That's one thing we're concerned about, having everyone physically together, meeting rooms, making sure the business is running properly. But being remote, having the proper tools, Slack, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, being able to communicate and really move the business forward is one thing that we were able to do. And another thing, in your opening, you had mentioned the strain on our network, and we had confidence our network was great, but it's never been tested, I guess you can say. And sure enough, it is as we thought. It was great and it held up, and we really didn't have any technical issues at all. And that kind of made our teams happy that, hey, we have this great network. We knew it, but it kind of got proven during the pandemic. And so that's one thing that we learned.
I think that's absolutely right. I think it's one of the untold stories, and one of the things that we should all collectively focus on is it's so easy to think about the access issues that are so popular now and the adoption issues. But look, we serve 98% of the population here in the Commonwealth, and the story that we need to tell better, I think, is how resilient, how ready we were, and how well we handled all of this. Wendy, you said something that resonated with me, and that was you consider Adams Cable to be a family. And I think that's right. And I think many of our members do that, and our teams are a family. How has the remote and the virtual setting, the work at home, the flexible scheduling impacted the business? And are there any takeaways for the future on how to keep a workforce, oriented towards completing the mission, but being more flexible?
Right. So when the pandemic hit, we've never had remote workers here. Everyone comes into the building and we thrive being together. It is like a family. So when the pandemic hit, we sent about 12 of our customer service reps home. And thankfully, we were ready. We had already purchased laptops. We had the soft phones. We had everything they needed to work from home. I couldn't wait to get them back to the building. What I found was, I think maybe they were distracted at home. Again, we've never had an at-home workforce. So it was a little difficult for them and for us. Fortunately, the parents that had young children that their children had to do virtual school from home, they had their own network to help them. I remember one of the installers being very stressed out because his children went from straight A's to C's because they weren't doing their virtual schooling at home. So my point in telling you that is I stayed in touch with all the employees, once a week, checking in. How are you doing? How are the kids doing in school? What can we do to help you? And for that particular installer, I gave him a week off. He was so stressed out. And because, again, we're all here in the same building, I'm able to see you on a daily basis. So it did put a lot of stress on families. What I saw with my families, was success. They were able to do it. And Adams helped them in any way. We changed some of their hours. Some of the ladies worked earlier in the morning, or we switched their hours to the evening, because our call center is manned here 24 hours a day, which we didn't stop. So I thought it was stressful, but it worked.
Yeah, outstanding. I think that's another part of the story. Our network's resilient, but so are our teams and so are our
Yes,
employees.
100%.
Just amazing. Tim, or do we have Tim yet?
No,
I
we
guess
don't. He can hear, but he can't seem to speak or have video. He doesn't see our video. I can only imagine it's a network issue on his end.
Okay.
It could be ours. I don't know. I've tried pretty much everything I can to try to get him in here.
Okay, fair enough. We still have a talented bunch of folks here. Joe, Laura, how about you? What did Blue Ridge? How did you guys deal with the family strains and the virtual transition?
Yes, so we had, like Wendy, 0 people working from home in the beginning of the pandemic. But as of now, most of our workforce is working from home. We do have some coming in a couple times a week, reporting in, kind of a hybrid model. One way, there was some performance issues early on, learning curve, but once we got everyone the proper tools and everyone became familiar with, Zoom and how to schedule meetings and work through those issues that they never had to do before, how to make sure their child at home is quiet while they're on the meeting, stuff like that. While we work through some of those early on, now our performance is great. We've been flexible with as much as we can without affecting the business, of course, with people and families. And one thing that we did that really helped, I thought, on our end was strong communication. Things were changing as we're going on. Even the employees were like, am I coming back to work? Am I not coming back to work? Do I need to get daycare? Daycare is closed. Like, what do I do? So as much as we could and as quickly as we could, as we got information, we kept our employees updated and what they could expect. And we sent them emails like, as of, July 1st, you're working from home. And then that got pushed back. But as we learn things, we communicate quickly and often. And I think that's what really helped ease some of the stress of those unknowns. So that seemed to work for us. And that's something we continue today. The continuing communication is really big. And that's something we learned from it. And it seemed to, we took internal employee surveys, and that's one thing they gave us feedback on, is that they appreciated all the communication that we did.
I think that's right on. Early communication just keeps the employee base informed and aware and able to plan. That's absolutely right. Joe Taylor, any thoughts on this?
I guess I learned a new term during the pandemic, this term essential worker.
Mhm.
I've always felt all of my helpers were essential, but we actually had a label for it this go round. And we're in a business where we couldn't stop, like many other businesses. Restaurants closed down, all this other disruption in the economy. I think from a family standpoint and caring for our employees, it become very much an individual type situation. Each family had a different challenge to deal with, and some days, what that challenge was.
Tim Trent.
Thursday got here, so I think both Wendy and Joe mentioned communication. It's just become absolutely critical. And this Teams call that we're on here, Teams was the tool that we leveraged, and I can't tell you how many thousands of hours it's got to be now I've spent on Teams calls, and I'm glad that we have. We got to be at the 95% level of people back in the office now, and it's. It really gives you an appreciation for that daily contact that you have, an opportunity to help and assist people. But absolutely it was a challenge, especially when the schools were closed and we still needed to work, and the whole daycare situation was jumbled up for people.
How are we gonna let Fran know?
But it goes back to my initial comment about the team and the family that we just we found our way through it. And there were some bumps in the road, there's no doubt about that. we continue to, want to increase our vaccination rate, but not everybody's going to get vaccinated. I'm pro-vaccine. I shout that from the mountaintop every time I can, but I'm not pro-mandate. So that's kind of where we found ourselves, and as the kind of the program goes on, I think I have a better understanding now of some people's objections to the vaccine, and that has just come from listening and learning more about what what those concerns are. So, yeah,
I think
I think
those are,
I'm a little smarter than I was 2 years ago. Now, have I turned that into any great advantage? I don't know, but I just think I've learned a lot. So,
I think we all have, and I think those are great points about the vaccine. Very, very interesting in trying times. I do see Tim Trentley now. Tim, do we have you? Well, we're getting closer. Let me turn for a minute, and Joe, I'll stay with you, to the operations. Coming out of this, we've heard so much about the broadband adoption element, and then this past spring, the FCC rolled out the enhanced broadband benefit. And I know that put or rose challenges for all of our operators to get their back office ready, get billing systems, get the integration ready. How has that worked for you, and what lessons have you learned in executing the EBB program?
Yeah, fortunately, that wasn't an area that I had to be directly involved in. We have a group of people that assisted us in getting all that integration part set up. But I think the EBB program is fantastic, and it's from this standpoint. I think as most of us did, we suspended our normal collection type activity early on in the process. It at least affords us an opportunity for people to get back into the normal routine again. And I think it's like anything else, that when it changes, the longer it lasts, the harder it is to return to what the normal routine was. So I'm thankful that we were able to participate in the program. And I still think there's an awful lot of people are unaware of the program. We've made some efforts to educate and outreach and whatever, but I thought there'd be a higher take rate than there was. So,
Oh, me too.
That's my evaluation of it. So,
Yeah, Wendy, I know we had discussed that some
Yes.
months ago. What about that?
To tell you the truth, when the program was being introduced, I was nervous. I thought, we're a pretty small shop here. We have limited employees. Most of us wear many different hats.
Okay.
But
I was nervous. I thought, we're going to need to hire a couple of people. Who's going to manage this? And in the first couple of months, things changed with USAC, and we were doing webinars every single day. And we picked somebody here that we thought would be the best person to lead the project. I stayed involved so that I could know what was going on and what the employees were going to go through. I was expecting, we have over 25,000 broadband subs. Part of the program was community eligibility. So if your school district had community eligibility for free lunch, well, we have 5 school districts in our footprint that are community eligible. I did some quick math. I thought, we're going to have thousands. I have less than 200 signed up. Less than 200. And, it's on our webpage. The link directly to go to USAC is there. If you said, well, Wendy, what would have happened if you did have thousands? I would have had to hire more employees. So I have the man that's in charge of it here, that's running the program. He's doing about 40 hours a month on EBB. That is crazy. And we know that the school districts that were community eligible, because during the pandemic and in the beginning, we worked with all the districts. We were doing.
There he is.
We even donated used laptops to them. They were notifying the students' families about this program. Where was the disconnect? I think part of the disconnect is that the eligible participant had to go online and do it themselves.
Yep.
I don't know if the other guys agree with me, but I think that was part of the reason we didn't get as many as we thought. I know there's certainly more than 200 eligible in our footprint.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I don't think anybody fully understands yet what the barriers are to people executing, whether there is, well, first off, we're trying to drive them, the federal government, I should say, is trying to drive them to a website when they can't get online in the first place, right? Um,
Sometimes, sure.
uh, and whether there's reticence to put personal information into a federal government database, that
Absolutely.
kind of stuff. Yeah, it all adds to questions
I
around.
turned on his mic and his camera.
Joe, Laura, how about you guys at Blue Ridge?
Yeah, same thing. The response rate was very low. We have less than 700 customers. That equates to probably less than half of. I was just on the phone with one of our local United Way chapters, and he's one of the advocates for EBB, and he said people look at, take the information, and really don't question or seem excited about it at all. It just, he's like, I'm pushing it, and like you said, we don't really know what the barriers are. But we had developed we had an EBB team in our call center of a couple people handling requests that come in. Our billing, we did a whole back end billing and making sure the prorated credits were done and writing programs and trying to automate the process as much as we could, working with finance, when we submit for the reimbursement. So we had to do a lot of work to get the program up and going and to make sure it's running properly. And it is. It's just the adoption rate seems not to be there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that's a common theme. It is a tribute to all of you and all of our members, that the work that went behind the scenes to prepare for this as we transition from EBB to the ACF program. Hopefully we'll see that as ending up being an asset, and maybe we can leverage that into increased adoption on this. It's going to be really important. Let me turn for a moment, and I'll stay with Mr. Laura. Let me turn for a moment to the fact that all of you have competed for a long, long time with the satellite providers. But our market has changed, particularly as broadband has become the driving, perhaps, product. And there are all kinds of competitive challenges out there. Joe, Laura, how have you guys prepared for the changing competitive landscape in the broadband space with all of these different companies and different technologies emerging?
Yeah, so we definitely stepped up tracking our competition. I mean, obviously something we've always done, but like you said, it's just not the satellite guys anymore. It's these fiber to the home startups that are popping up, and at least in our area, as well as some people trying to get government funding as well to.
And there.
So what we have done in our highly competitive areas, we have created specific to those areas retention and acquisition offers. They usually match and beat the competition. That's just something we've quickly done, and a good marketing response to the competition. But overall, what we're really trying to do is improve the customer experience. We feel if you focus on that, improving the customer experience, then you don't have to worry about retention.
Fran.
People will want to come to you. So we've done a bunch of things to enhance that customer experience. We made our online ordering easier. We increased our internet speeds multiple times throughout the last couple of years without doing a price increase. So in some cases, some speeds were doubled without a price increase. And that's just something, we felt we had to do. So we say, okay, what are our customers asking for? What is their behavior? So we know because of the pandemic, we know they're using more bandwidth. They know, people are online more, and we know they need a little bit more speed. So that's something we did. Again, as Wendy had mentioned earlier, family company. We talked to the community. We realized that that's a need. So that's something we just did with, like I said, without a price increase. We're trying to do a lot of things online that would help make it easier for the customer to contact us without, of course, diminishing their experience with us. So, just one quick example. I mean, we've launched chat years ago, but you don't want to launch a chat program to reduce phone calls and then have them wait on chat for 20 minutes, right? Yeah. So you want to make sure when they're on that chat, it's something quick and easy, and that experience is great. And that's something we're looking to do. Right before the pandemic, we launched texting. So you get text alerts and text on the way, text reminders of appointments, text that your bill is ready to be viewed online. We're going to be launching two-way texting. So we're doing a lot of customer experience improvements to help with kind of combat that competition.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's all important. Joe Taylor, how about that? And what are the keys to creating a good customer experience and ultimately customer loyalty?
Well, I think I've been in the industry a long time. I know many on this call have been, and probably the biggest single realization for me coming through the pandemic has been this dependence on the broadband product, and how, although we continue to market and support our video product, that it's there, it's important, but there's lots of other sources of video now, and a good broadband connection is the gateway to those other sources of video. So, I think a focus strictly on those customers that just have broadband from me is something that we've really tried to focus on. They seem to be the ones most targeted by our competitors. We have some video competition. I know you mentioned in your question about the satellite stuff, but they don't compete with us on the broadband side of the equation. So I think the competition, the definition of the competition has changed. It changed before the pandemic, but I think it's just become even more highlighted since then. Joe mentioned retention programs, obviously, the need to crank those up and be consistent in messaging with our customers. And we, like many of the other companies on this call, we pride ourselves in most of our communities. We were the original franchising company. We've operated in them 50 years, 55 years, whatever. There's a danger when you're the incumbent of getting too comfortable. I think we have, as an organization, always felt that, no, we have to get better in order to keep the customers we have. And I can't tell you how many times in the last probably 6 to 8 months, as competition is cranked up, I've used the phrase, hey, it's a lot easier, a lot cheaper to keep somebody you got than it is to go out and get a new customer. So all those efforts around the customer experience become more and more critical.
Well, thanks. Yeah. And Wendy, what about you? And build on that thread. I think there's an element, one of the advantages that our industry has is that we've always been really locally focused, and part of that is caring for the communities that we have as part of the customer loyalty strategy as well. So what do you think about all of that?
Well, I totally agree. It's all about the community and the customer, and we're very involved in the local community. And yes, competition is coming from all directions now. I agree. It's not about the video. Really, we've never done introductory rates. We've never done contracts. Now the Joes are talking about retention plans and putting those in place. That is something that has been, we've been giving that a lot of thought. I'm not a big fan of going to introductory rates, because we always told our customers, this is us. We're not going to pull any punches. We're not going to get you in the door. These are our rates, and we're going to treat you well. One of the strong parts, I think, for Adams Cable is that we are here in our building 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. With the exception, we close at Christmas Eve at 7 o'clock, and we open up on the 26th at 7. We are here, being involved in the community, which we are. We're involved, you name it. If there's a parade, We have a float. We're going to be there. We're going to be in it. We're going to be answering questions at the local county fair. We're going to give you the opportunity to talk to me. I go to the local county fairs and sit behind the booth and answer questions and let the customers know. We have a sales department with our business class customers. I tell my guys, you need to stop in. You know, we have a little Adams Cable mug with some Hershey Kisses in it. Simply say, is there anything you need? Stay in their face, because there's a competitor out there that's more than happy to take that business customer away from us. So, and you know what? They might even come in and lower the price by $20 a month. But we have to make it so it's not worth $20 a month for our customer to leave us. I might not be able to match that rate, and likely I'm not. But as a business owner, a small business owner, you're going to say, well, you know, I've had Adams Cable for 5 years. Service has been fantastic. They answer the phone when I call. They're here the same day if there's a problem.
There, and I made you a presenter.
And so that's how we're kind of dealing with our competitors now.
I think those are super powerful points, and I appreciate that. Let me stay with you as I turn a little bit. We all know that the whole notion of access and expanding broadband into unserved areas has been at the fore lately, and not only at the fore, but at the state, at the federal level. There are so many resources coming down the pike. Money's not going to be a problem. As a matter of fact, cash, the availability of capital, there can probably be an argument to be made that there's going to be too much of it. However, as you all think about expansion plans, what on the ground are those big barriers to expansion? Is it permitting at the local level? Is it pole attachments? Is it the make-ready process and dealing with all of that?
All three. Of course, all three. You know, we're dealing with, you know, we have probably 10 or 12 different pole owners, whether it's Verizon or PP&L or TDS or Penelec. There are so many of them. Is that the biggest hurdle? Personally, for me, I don't think so. I think it's a monetary problem, because we all know what pole rent has done in the last few years. We all know what make ready used to be, a sliver, and now you can expect make ready anytime you put your pole permits in. Or you might be dealing with one of the pole owners that they just don't even respond to you. And so at some point the clock has ticked right through your wait time, and we're just attaching without ever hearing back from them. It's the biggest problem with all this federal money out there, the ruralness of it. I know I've spoke with you about the Windsor, New York bid that we put in. It's so rural. We have mountains and valleys and underground in some spots, and aerial in other spots. When we put the bid in, and our bid was $2.1 million for 26 miles. And the staff, I'm small. I want to be part of the solution for Windsor, New York. I want to give rural broadband to these customers that need it to work or school from home. But it's also the staff and the amount of time it'll take to do it, aside from pole permits. And you know, we're giving them a 48, if they even get the money. We're saying we can only say 48 months.
Great point. Great point. Joe Taylor, I know you've had similar experience as well. What do you think?
Well, I think that's always been a challenge in expanding into rural areas. I do recognize this, and I think I've had the privilege of helping to finance the improvement. You know, some of the larger utilities that we deal with have got better at turning around permits, at, you know, acknowledging receipt, and, you know, following the guidelines on permit timing. But that's coming at a cost. What used to be $125 to apply for a pole now is $450. So they got better, but they got better because I helped finance their improvements. So I find that a little frustrating. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you know, it's rare that we set our own poles. We have on occasion, but If you're the only guy on the pole and it falls, you're the guy that's got to get out there and fix it. So there's downsides to being pole owners. We were approached at one point by a local telco that their business was headed south, and they actually wanted to sell us their poles. Just get out of town. You own them. You're making money off them. We're not making money off them anymore. We didn't take them up on that particular opportunity, but I do think the permitting turnaround time has got better. The cost to permit is increased. The data you need to collect to permit a pole now requires much more field work and time and effort. And then, of course, as Wendy mentioned, the make ready is it's just assumed. There's a make ready on almost every pole anymore. So it does certainly affect the the numbers in terms of looking at a rate of return on an incremental build. So nothing's changed around poles really, except we got to help them get better.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I would also suggest that there's been some gaming in the system with the availability of capital, and it's all of a sudden pole replacements has become,
Right.
Some of the pole owners can do that on our nickel a lot easier. One of the things that we're looking at here at the association is something that Texas recently did, was establish a pole replacement fund to help ameliorate that. Joe, Laura, what do you think about, as you think about strategic expansion and the challenges, therefore?
Yeah, our issues with pole attachments and make ready, hasn't really changed over the last 2 years. We pretty much recognize the timing, of how long it's going to take. One thing that we did think that would help speed up the process is the one touch make ready. But we have found that if one of those poles has power on, we have to wait anyway. So it hasn't really changed, hasn't really helped speed up the process. So yeah, I mean, we're just, plugging along. Our issue is make readies, finding property owners, for right of ways. So we have a hard time tracking down some people because they own land. They don't necessarily live there. So, like one example we have, someone has a piece of property on the corner and they live in Florida. So we necessarily can't knock on their door and say, sign this right away. So it's just hard. And that's one thing that's kind of holding up our process a lot, is obtaining those right of ways. But other than that, as far as the pole attachments, like Joe said, it's just getting costly, and we know the time frames. It's just a little frustrating.
Yeah, no, agreed. Thank you. Let me turn to the bigger picture here, as just a couple more questions for you guys. Joe Taylor, big picture, looking forward to 2022, what do you perceive to be your key challenges and opportunities?
Well, I mentioned earlier I learned that new term, essential service provider or essential worker. The other new term I learned, I think I had heard it before, but I hear it every day now, is supply chain. And that's going to be our biggest single challenge. Is, I mean, we had plans in place before the pandemic. We, skipped a few beats during the pandemic. There were other things to focus on and challenges to deal with, but the supply chain now is going to really impact us, looking for alternate vendors, and trying to secure materials. We've launched a fairly significant commitment to, rebuild all our network with fiber to the home. And, we put orders in 3 years ago and had plans to, get fiber delivered in increments over time. And, one particular fiber provider, because all these orders were coming in, broadband deployment had been heating up for a while. More and more people getting into business needing fiber. So they were going to build a new factory. Well, they got their factory built. They got the shell of the building and everything else, but all the parts and pieces that make the fiber are still sitting on a container ship somewhere. So,
yep.
We have a factory. So of course they've come back to us that we can't make our commitments because we don't have the production capability. So I think that's going to be the single biggest, the competition to me is, we've always competed We have different forms of competition. It's not going to go away. It's always going to be there. But I think our ability to respond and to meet kind of schedules we had planned are just going to continue to be impacted by the supply chain, whether it's construction materials or it's CPE or whatever. So,
Wendy, I assume that applies to labor as well.
Sure, it sure does. And as Joe just said, prior to COVID, we had plans we had some communities already mapped out, ready to go, fiber to the home. And it took us 12 months just to get all the equipment in so that we could start hanging it on the poles. And we've tried to be as proactive as we can. I mean, we're ordering things that we need for 18 months down the road. We've already ordered. And, you know, we have some warehouses and we're cleaning out a warehouse just in case we get all of it at the same time so that we can have a spot to put it. So that's a definite challenge going forward.
Interesting. I think that's, you know, and multiply it by countless billions of dollars across 50 states, and I think it only gets more critical as we look forward in both the labor and supply chain matters. Joe, Laura, Blue Ridge's challenges, opportunities for the coming year.
It's the labor, is staffing. You know, we've raised our call center starting rate, I think twice now in the last year. You know, pretty much like everyone else is, you know, I see billboards, Amazon up to $20 an hour now, they're advertising, or 25. So it's definitely staffing. And same thing with Joe and Wendy. You know, we announced our fiber to the home build a couple months ago, and it's getting the materials. And more importantly, once we get the materials, do we have the manpower to actually do the build, to do the construction? So that's one of our challenges is, you know, the materials and actually finding people for the construction.
Right. And you mentioned the increase rate of pay that we're willing to pay somebody. I agree. Twice this year, I've increased our starting wage for a CSR and 3 times increased a line crew member. We need the line crew to hang all this fiber up for us. 3 times I've increased. I thought I was right on money. And then you see the billboard for Chewy or Amazon starting at 20. It's non-skilled labor. And I talk to my guys and I tell them, don't be swayed from that billboard. Adams Cable's a family and we're going to take care of you when something happens. While I might not be able to offer you $20 an hour right now, you have great medical benefits, you have great dental and eye, you know, we have a 401k, you have vacation time. And if something happens, I'm there for you. If you can't come to work today because your daycare closed or your baby's sick, you don't have to risk losing your job here. At Chewy or Amazon, you're a number. So I really try, again, always talking about family, with my labor, I'm trying to keep them because some of my guys on the crew, and that's the most important people I need right now to build this fiber, they see the billboards and they think, there's one place, it's a can manufacturing. They're starting at $25 an hour if you work 3rd shift. How can I compete with that?
Right.
So I get it. We got labor and supply chain, both the biggest challenges.
Great point. And, you know, let me just close. Well, this is the second to last question for you. And Wendy, I'll stay with you. We have members from all over and at varying levels attending this call. And so much of what you just said and what all of you have referenced has really come down to leadership and caring for people. What are some of the key things that someone starting out in our industry should do to become a leader?
Again, all about communication, being transparent, you know, be a leader, lead by example. I say that more times than I can count in my life. Lead by example and letting someone know that they matter to your organization. Everyone here is very important to me. And I'm fortunate enough, and I know not everybody on this call has the availability to be so in touch with their staff. I only have 70 people, but if you're going to start out, you know what everybody does for you.
Great point. Mr. Taylor.
I agree with everything that Wendy said. I think leadership, to me, boils down to trust, and trust is gained by what you do every day. Trust is earned, and I think when I think about developing leaders, and I've been very fortunate here in the last couple of months that I've been able to take some of my people and have had them get promoted into operational roles at our corporate office. And I think as that process has gone through, I think the reason they boil to the top and get selected, and to me there's no greater compliment for a leader and or manager than to have one of their people, their teammates, uh, be able to be promoted and get selected. And I think it's doubly valuable when that's something that happens internally. And I mean, a lot of people go out and find new people to do certain jobs or whatever. I'm a big believer in identifying, developing, and promoting from within. And we as a family company have been very fortunate to be able to do that. So.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Joe Laura.
Yeah, I think when you give employees a clear vision and goals, and kind of coach them to discovery as opposed to telling them what to do all the time, and pretty much inspiring them to maybe do things that they thought they couldn't do. And to me, that's what makes a good leader. Getting people, I think, I don't know, it might have been a Jack Welch book. When I do my employee reviews, it's usually not a surprise at all. We have constant communication, like Wendy said. We talk all the time, so they know exactly where they stand. And pretty much that employee review is just a summary of what we've talked about through the year. It's never a surprise. It's that constant feedback. It's giving them a good vision and good goals and helping them achieve it.
Thanks. And okay, so final question. I don't know whether this is the hard one or the softball. We'll start with Wendy. Any holiday plans?
That's the easy one, right? Hopefully back to normal this year. I usually host about 30 people for dinner, and last year, obviously, we couldn't do that. So hopefully go back to being with family.
Awesome. Yeah. Joe Taylor.
I think this holiday is going to be similar to last holiday for me and my family, just simply because of some changes that have occurred around the whole the pandemic thing. But this way, I want to be with family. I want us to be able to get together, but sometimes there's good reasons to not gather in large groups, and I continue to support that, and I think we can find ways to reach out and be involved with our families, and not necessarily have that big group. But I can tell you, I look forward to the time when we can gather again as large groups for large events. There's a lot of things I've missed. Like taking a group of people to a hockey game or something like that. And it's hard right now because some people either don't feel comfortable doing it. And then there's that whole social pressure that comes up about you get invited, but you don't feel comfortable going, but you feel pressure to go and all that kind of stuff. And I've just kind of let that all slide. I think I'm hopeful and optimistic as we enter the new year that things will begin to get closer to what normal was.
Agreed. Well said. Joe Laura.
I'm going up to Adams Cable and getting one of those coffee mugs filled with Hershey Kisses that Wendy gives out. Ever since she said that, I've been thinking about chocolate the whole time. So it was hard to concentrate on this webinar, thinking about those Hershey Kisses. But no, it's a family. I don't have a big family, so it's a pretty tight knit group. And we're all older now. There's not any younger children running around, or nieces and nephews. So it's a pretty, it's just nice to get together, family, relax, take a break from work a little bit, and just focus on some good times.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, Joe, Wendy, thank you so much for your time today. I think this was really, really, really informative and important. And you were the inaugural BCAP webinar victims, and made us look really good. For those of you who attended, oh, by the way, you will get. We will make sure that we get Tim Trentley on here for perhaps the next one, as we continue this series. For those of you who took the time to join today, thank you. As I said at the top of this, this association belongs to you. We encourage you to reach out if there's any way when we can be helpful, if you need any support or you need anything. And on behalf of Fran Bradley and the board of directors and the staff here, we thank you for your support. We thank you for your membership, and we wish everybody a happy, safe, and healthy holiday season. We'll see you all in the new year.
Thank you. Same to
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.